Hello, everyone, and welcome to our panel on XR and retail and consumer experience. We've got a great group of panelists today to talk about how the world has changed during the pandemic, but more importantly, as we seem to be pulling out of it, what changes are here to stay? What do the next few years look like in the world of virtual and augmented reality as it relates to retail, marketing, consumer experience? We have a great panel lined up today. We have Rafala Camera, who's here with us now in her new role at Epic. She's going to tell us about that in a minute. Congrats, Rafala. Welcome. Great to see you again. Silke Meyer, Global Business Strategy at IBM. It's not our first rodeo together. Good to see you, Silke. Nigel Tierney, the head of content at Yahoo Riot Lab. Nigel, it's been yonks, but it's good to see you again, my friend. Bill Newell, CEO of Sparksworks. Bill and I are doing a bit of a role reversal. We often do this panel in opposite roles. So Bill, I can't wait to actually, for once, hear about what you do in your work. And I get to sit back and not, pimp Unity for the whole 40 minutes. So that's great. I'm happy to be moderating the panel. Leslie Shannon is head of ecosystem and trend scouting at Nokia. And again, they'll do more extended intros in a minute. I'm Tony Parisi, head of AR and VR ads and e-commerce at Unity Technologies, a premier platform that people use to create XR content and operate their businesses. Before we do our full intros, let's just talk about this for a minute. Did you guys all notice the new report that just dropped at Snap Commission with Deloitte? It literally came out like an hour ago. It's really talking about how AR and VR are here to stay, in particular AR and consumer mobile AR. So I want to come back and touch on that. There's a couple stats, but it literally came across my desk an hour ago. So I couldn't be more excited about that too. So welcome everybody. Let's go around the horn and do more full intros now. So Bill, let's start with you.
All right, I'm Bill Newell. I'm the CEO of Sparksworks, and our products and services are designed to help advertisers, brands, retailers, other marketers connect with consumers real time through immersive AR experiences. This is our sole focus, and I am looking forward to share with you the things that we're doing right now for our clients.
Great. How about you, Silke?
Hi there, I'm Silke Meyer. I'm a partner with IBM's Enterprise and Digital Strategy Group. What keeps me up at night is what keeps our clients up at night. So how to make sense of all the technology and enablement that's available, how to make wise choices, where to invest the money, how to get a good return on the money, and really harness the power and the excitement for user engagement across all kinds of channels, omni-channels, and especially how to weave augmented reality into the day-to-day consumer and customer and employee experience. Very excited to be here today.
Great to see you. How about you, Leslie?
Yeah, well, actually very similar to Silke. I too work with our corporate customers who happen to be the phone companies of the world. At Nokia, we don't make handsets anymore, so don't get excited that we're going to be making some kind of AR VR headset, because we're not. Oh, stop the rumors right now, right? So, but our phone company customers are building the networks, and they're they're building 5G right now, and they're trying to figure out, all right, what can I do differently with 5G than I could with any of the other Gs? And that's a question whose answer leads directly to AR and VR. So I'm Nokia's head trend scout based in Silicon Valley, looking at the developments in these areas so I can take those to our phone company customers and make sure that they build the networks that we're going to need to get this stuff going all over the globe for everybody.
Great. And yes, let's bounce right off that to Nigel then.
How is
Nigel,
everyone?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Nigel Tierney, I'm head of content for Yahoo Riot Lab, really focusing in on how do we create innovative, new, exciting content, mixed reality and beyond, all, really thinking about 5G and other, future forward thinking formats. So really, whether it's helping creators create that type of content or consumers consuming it, and just making sure it's compelling and interesting. And yeah, great to hear, and be on a panel with everyone. We're all of similar ilk, but also, have our perspective. So thank you very much for having me.
I do think it's going to wait a little bit toward 5G, just given you and Leslie's roles in history the last few years. But we'll leave it at that. And last but not least, Rafala.
Well, good morning, everyone. Yes, I literally just joined Epic Games. I'm the new head of brands and advertiser solutions for Unreal Engine. So very much attached to the topic at hand today, and how do we use virtual environments and virtual assets or virtual worlds to help create advertising and commerce and any other form of experience.
Great. Yeah. And I'm sure we're going to touch on your experience in your previous life as well. It's informing everything we're coming into today. So I can't wait. And with that, let's roll into it. So I briefly mentioned it because I got super excited about this Snap report that just happened, but it had a couple of takeaways, and I encourage everyone to go get it. Again, they worked with Deloitte, produced a big report. I contributed to it. A few folks at Unity contributed to it. And they had tons of people they interviewed and lots of consumers. Couple of big takeaways, and I haven't read the whole thing yet, to be honest. They're predicting ubiquity over 75% of global users using AR by 2025, number one. However that's defined, you'll have to look at the report and understand the methodologies and so on. The other big one was boasting up to 94% conversion on sales with the use of AR, which is kind of incredible. We all know what e-commerce is like and your typical conversion rates. So, all of that, of course, will have to be calibrated against reality. We'll have to look at that over time. These are still just the first couple of years of returns, but those are the ones that just popped out in the couple of infographics that I quickly scanned through in the hour or so before we're doing this today. So I think that's just a great thing to think about it and just kind of have as a North Star, Rafaela, as we get into you setting the stage here, is like, let's just assume those things are true. So that we're some directionally, at least, that we're going to get to that ubiquity, that we're going to have those kind of promising outcomes on commerce or other kinds of marketing conversions. So lay it out for us. Let's look at the last couple of years of the pandemic, how these, what behaviors like before, during, and now coming out of it, we pray, we hope, and how that will weave into that future. So set the stage for us.
Yeah, well, look, I think that over the past year, and even more so over the past 6 months, the past year and then the past 6 months, we've seen more and more consumers, but also brands and advertisers really trying to bring together the virtual and the physical. What I mean by that is virtual environments where you can also do traditional shopping, traditional marketing, traditional advertising, or even traditional form of communication or social interaction. So examples that probably all of us have seen, or a lot of the people who are listening right now have seen, but Travis Scott doing his own concert in Fortnite and the success that had, and there is rumor that he made $20 million and variety of the sale of different assets. Virtual fashion shows and gaming. We've seen Balenciaga, for example, breaking their own a new line in a game type environment. Social lenses and shopping, as you were just talking about, Tony. Just one example in Snap was the American Eagle pop-up shop, AR pop-up shop for Christmas that did really well. I believe it was $1.5 million in about a month or something along those lines. And then a variety of virtual stores. We've seen Dior doing them, Coach, Diesel, and a variety of other ones. So if we have that in mind, if we keep that in mind, we then need to kind of like try to think about what are the things that we need to make sure that we do. Maybe if we can think about 3 major elements to keep in mind when we go and we try to create these things. The first is certainly that the assets and the environments have to be hyper realistic. If you want to strike an emotional chord with the end consumer, they have to be as close to reality as possible. And we see technology moving really fast in being able to produce assets that are truly, that have a high degree of authenticity and fidelity. With that, though, then comes being able to see these assets. So they need to be able to be streamable and light enough to share across all of the different platforms. So yes, VR headsets, and yes, AR glasses, but also AR mobile and web VR. Those are very important. So there has to be a technical way of being able to stream or render them in a way that they can be used across. And
you realize you have just described 2 conflicting, potentially super and dynamic tension requirements right there, right?
Yes,
from a tech standpoint.
At the same time, as we all know, the entire ecosystem is working towards that. And I think we have all of the different components of that here on this panel being able to talk about that. And I think the last element that is really important is that there is a more and more hunger for social elements in these experiences, and social elements to the point of being able to interact with the real humans or digital humans, but either bringing humans in volumetric and being able to start having that form of interaction partially, or being able to have digitized humans that are so emotional in their expressions that you can actually relate and you're able to feel like you're talking to them. And one example of that is certainly what Unreal Engine has come out with the MetaHuman creator. So I'll stop here for a second and get your thoughts.
Yeah, well, and again, everyone, open up to the panel on this, but it's some really great framing. So some trends you mentioned, the shopping, live events, virtual concerts, these kind of, new changes in user behavior. And then now you're saying these are kind of a call to action for these three elements that you just mentioned. I want to try and see if we can find a pithy way to review them. So we have like fidelity, ubiquity, let's say, and there's got to be universal distribution. Now the third one is, you mentioned social element, community. I don't know, I'm trying to come up with a French Revolution call to arms here that summarizes that. So I think that's great. So, within that, I think that's a good framing for the next 30 or so minutes that we can chat about this in terms of the consumer trends and the challenges that we're going to face to be able to meet them in a way that really scales up. So what do people think?
Yeah, I would. Go ahead. Oh, we're being polite. Okay. I would actually add one more to that. It doesn't play in with every single bit of AR, but location is also extremely important, and especially when you get into the e-commerce thing. Before the pandemic, Niantic was having Pokemon Go weekends in selected cities, and what they found is, and there would be a trail of Pokemon that you would follow through the city, and what they found was that the physical shops, the real world shops, as people are following the Pokemon through the city, generated tens of millions of dollars more commerce because the AR experience was bringing people to these locations. So there's commerce, AR generates commerce not only within AR, but also where you follow it in your location too, which is a really important thing to keep in mind with monetization. And that's
a contextual element, and we may get back to that ability to do that contextually as we all start getting out of lockdown and the whole thing.
I know, what a thought, right?
I know, very exciting. So that was pre-pandemic, and presumably that more or less cratered during pandemic, and they had to, explore, other venues of self-expression for a long time. But again, we're going to get back to that. Go ahead, Bill. Yeah.
If I could just add to that, I think the key word really is ubiquity. Because with the pandemic, we were focusing on bringing basically the experience to the point of sales, right? So basically where people are at home, at their living room, wherever it is. But now that things are opening up, that is all good, and that has a tremendous impact. That we're also enhancing the in-store located, the in-store experience. So it's on both places, and the idea is to distribute through mobile, through the browser, through glasses, and everything else. So ubiquity, I think, is really the key word.
You're dropping in and out a little bit, Bill, and I don't know if that's a function of proximity or anything, or to the microphone.
Can you hear me clear now?
That's quite a bit better. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is perfect. Perfect segue to you. Actually, I'd like you to kick this off. So now that we've got this sort of framing of the opportunities, trends, challenges that we're looking at in the short term of this near future of just a couple of years here that we're all working together on. This is a perfect, I think, time for you to talk about this and go a little bit more into this. You mentioned the in-store. I think that's related to some of the work you're doing, in fact. So I want to kind of move into the next phase of how I want to talk about this stuff with the audience today, which is, let's get into some of these use cases a little bit more. I mean, Leslie just drilled into one. Let's go for the in-store one, and then we can open it up and kind of bounce around.
Okay, thank you, Tony. And you can hear me, right?
Yes, it's great.
Okay. So I am particularly excited about this model that I'm about to describe. I can share with you who the clients are, but there are more than one. I can share that. So the experience basically leverages 5G and multi-access edge computing. Those are two. 5G, I'm sure you have heard every single day for the past year, but multi-access edge computing is something you're going to be hearing more and more about. It goes hand in hand, but not to use technical terms. So what we're working on is the ability of a consumer to walk into, for example, a department store. As they walk in with a phone or a tablet, any mobile device is location or device. So we can detect and suggest that you download the application for that establishment and further synchronize inventory for the local store and everything. And what happens next is what really gets me excited. We can render the entire store in real time, positioning all the products and service that they have. And consumers can interact, find out information, compare prices, exact location, and anything you can imagine that that store has to offer, including the potentially to put things in a basket or a cart, bag them, and walk out of the store already with their bill digitally. Furthermore, all of these interactions we can capture and analyze behavior, analyze assortment, analyze placement, and what areas of the store are more effective than others. And when the consumer leaves, things that were not purchased but review, we can then leverage into potential follow-ups and another opportunity to sell. This is really exciting. I'm trying not to use any technical words because I think that we can all talk this way is really to understand. And I'm moving away from the term e-commerce and really talking more about the digital connection and digital and real world commerce. No more e-commerce. It's just commerce.
There you go. And that actually speaks to this convergence of physical and digital that Rafaela teased out earlier as well. And the fact that the phone or the whatever devices we have are also about ingesting and recognizing the real world around us, not just about overlaying rendering. It's another key component to XR, AR in particular, is the camera, understanding the world and helping you navigate a store, understand products, get more information. And finally, one other thread you pulled in is that XR doesn't exist in a vacuum. There's AI and 5G and these other related technologies that are key to basically new transformations of technology that are going to radically change these experiences. Nigel, I'm seeing you on mute, so it's time to jump in.
Yeah.
And Bill, I'll ask you to work on that audio just a little bit more, maybe go on mute or
Okay.
see what you can do about that. It was still a little bit fuzzy.
Might be your headphones, by the way.
Yeah, it might be the headphones.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna switch. While you guys talk, I'll switch to.
Oh, great, go for it. So Nigel, yeah.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to kind of piggyback off a few things and just highlight, a few of those terms like context and experience. So, even pre-pandemic, there was a difficulty with stores, attracting people to actually come in, right? And what's the value add like versus going on e-commerce, especially then when you're starting to see like, oh, this product looks as visually comparable to seeing that real product. And honestly, I get to try, what this couch looks like in my, living room from IKEA, etc. What I think what we're, what on the experiential side is there's this yearning right now coming out of the pandemic, like to get back into doing things. However, what's that value add again versus like what we've already seen and what people are consuming? And I think, really embracing, not just the visual fidelity and the quality, but also a value add around entertainment, right? Mm-hmm. So like, Rafael, you highlighted that. See Travis Scott early on in the pandemic in a concert, in its rawest form, that's a performer just performing at a different venue, right? So, how do we start to enhance that? And then, where you could have, so for example, we did this thing we're the innovation partner for New York Fashion Week, and working with one of their designers, Rebecca Minkoff, trying to figure out how do we not only, for this past New York Fashion Week, provide access to something that, very few people could go to, but provide access to people around the world, get a glimpse, get, photogrammetry, capture the outfits so that day and drop, you'll be able to, investigate and explore, but then also be a part of that, like behind the scenes moment, and which kind of offers that level of exclusivity. Another brand that I thought did really well was like what Complex did for Complex Land, having their physical festival, Complex Con. You go and you're like, wow, it's an energy overload of like products, and I'm a victim of purchasing probably half of it here, but then I loved what they did with Complex Land, which was this online version of gamified way to kind of share social interactions and like customize sneakers and do all sorts of fun, really compelling and all kind of built off of Web 3D. So now that they'll, coming out of the pandemic, I can imagine a world where that merges. I don't know what their plans are, but like where that starts to really feel like you're engaging in AR and mixed reality while you're at that festival in a physical way. So I think the experience is really important around that.
Yeah, and if I can add a little bit to what Nigel was saying and what Billy was saying is, yes, there are experiences in store, and you can augment those experiences in store and try to give people help them while they're there. You can certainly even help the stores figure out where products should be placed so you can maximize sales. You can do that in a virtual environment. But I think even more importantly is, how do you bring the store home? Or how do you bring the store wherever you are? How do you bring shopping wherever you are? So how do you bring it into a concert? That could be a virtual concert, but you could be at the concert and have a way of augmenting that and doing that. Or how do you start customizing products? You might have only one type of product in the store or even virtually. And how do you now start doing that, seeing what the couch looks like at home, but also seeing what the sneakers could look like, and doing that outside of the store, so that every time that you are inspired to buy something or to connect with a specific brand or product, you can do that.
Yeah, Rafaela, I think spot on not only customization, but personalization in that omni-channel environment, right? There is the craving for the experience that Nigel was talking about. There is the connection to the brand that consumers are seeking and even flocking back into the retail environment. But they want to be recognized from no matter which device they come from. They want to be recognized that there's bespoke content or bespoke curated, shopping inspiration for them. So when we look at the lens and what everybody was sharing, there's really three lenses that offer for marketers as well as any corporation wanting to make money of that, especially in retail, to think about it. And when we help clients to worry about what do you need to do first, how do you bring the technology, the bandwidth need, the content, the personalization, and the data stream together, we invite them to think about the value lens. So ultimately, some impressive statistics, Tony, 94% conversion rate, that is pretty exceptional. We were able to test around 60% uplift, but kudos. But the idea is, can we articulate the value and the revenue uplift in the retail environment or elsewhere? Right. Can we articulate the value to the user? And that can be the end consumer, that can be an employee, even an extension of the brand in a way, and how much it really augments their ability to serve the customer better, or for the consumer to really enjoy that retail or concert entertainment experience. And then the third lens is ultimately the technical feasibility, because a lot of the work that all of us are doing is at the cutting edge in one way, and it's creating new use cases. At the same time, the expectation rises. There's bandwidth available. There's an opportunity now to really raise the bar, and consumers have expected that seamless omni-channel experience, recognize me, personalize the content, give me something memorable. And so those three lenses, when we talk to marketers, technologists, we try to bring together in the use cases, and it really helps shape the decision-making. What do you do as a first point of proof of concept? We have a hospitality and leisure client prior to the pandemic, really interested to bring data streams together and know how their infrastructure was set up. Enter, COVID and a very different world. Now they had time to actually work on it in a very accelerated fashion. Or how do you take people back into the retail stores now that stores are open again? About a year ago, you had to worry about how to actually connect the data points of continuing commerce while you had 90% or 100% of your retail outlets closed. So bringing the value lens of technical feasibility, the value to the user experience, and the value creation, quantifying that has been really helpful to help make decisions and place your money on the right bet, if you like.
And if I may add just quickly, I think it's really exciting that the technologies and the diverse ways to reach consumers are in place to do that. We are able now to deliver through the browser. We added web AR. We're extremely excited about that. We were already able to do it through mobile applications. We're planning on supporting all the glasses that are coming out. And I think it is important to really meet users at the technologies that they have. Fortunately, they all cross really around on the board, and we have technologies, like Unity since 2019. Very important update, my dear friend. Has enabled all kinds of possibilities. It really is an exciting time to be in this space. And everything that you guys are saying is right on. This is exactly what I'm getting from all of the different people that I'm talking to. So it feels really real. This is it.
Yeah,
I think
and Bill,
so.
oh, sorry.
Please, no, Leslie, I was about to call on you, but yes, please.
Oh, okay, yeah, Bill, I'm really glad you just mentioned glasses, because that's one of the things that 5G is truly going to enable, where you have the minimum amount of processing on the glasses and then a 5G connection to servers not very far from you in the network edge, which will give you more computing power than we've ever had before. And that's going to be what unlocks the glasses. And still, 18 months, 2 years before all of those elements come into play. But once that happens, then we're actually going to see the absolute total explosion of everything. And one of the this is a small thing. There was a video that I saw. It was just a Unity developer named Voxel Guy. I don't know anything more about him. He had already built a version of his own living room in Unity for some other project. And one day he was just like tired of vacuuming. So he just created a program that he could run through his Oculus. And so he's in the Unity version of his living room while he's in his real living room. He sees in his Oculus Euros scattered all over the floor. He puts his controller on his vacuum cleaner, and now he's vacuuming for Euros in his VR. This monetization of humdrum tasks, or gamification, probably better. Those weren't real Euros. But gamification of humdrum tasks, or anything repetitious or boring, or, and oh my God, and just imagine the product tie-ins, or I can be participating with Iron Chef, because there's visual analytics that are monitoring how small I'm chopping the onion, and I get Gordon Ramsay, okay, not the right one, but anyway, I get a chef yelling in my ear in my own kitchen if I'm not chopping the onions finely enough. There is so much here. I cannot wait for the explosion of new opportunities that are going to come once we actually have this significant technology shift from our gaze dead ending in a screen to the augmented reality actually joining our real vision as we're actually looking at the real world.
I want to stay on this vector for a bit, but I see other people unmuting. So if
I do want to like on that. Like, I love the combination and the kind of that realization of the utility meets entertainment, right? Because I think the first was it the AR measuring tape, great utility, not an entertaining thing. Although my mother, I think I've shared it past, loves it, but so from a shareability and a scalability, right? So if we're thinking about being able to get something of more value, that hey, check this out, right? That you start, and you send that link, you're able to get out of a walled garden that is even within a social platform where you can just like that ubiquity where you're sharing across and like, oh wow, I can do this cool, fun, and entertaining thing as well. Like that is. I love that. Again, I'm going to check up Voxel Guy. That's great.
Yeah, and Nigel, go build that.
new meaning to digital twin. I mean, use cases we didn't even think about for creating that twin of a physical environment, totally gamified. But Nigel, I mean, you touched on something that we've all talked about in one discussion or another over the last couple of years, and it's that combination of fun and utility.
Yeah.
That, without the utility, this is a gimmick. It's not going to be here to stay. If it's pure utility, well, where's the fun in it, first of all? But I mean, I think it's not capturing the essence of everything the medium can do. And so to me, I feel like that's the sweet spot of experience where, fun meets utility is a great thing to continue to explore the depths of with this new medium.
Yeah, and I think on the fandom side of that, right? So like we did this, we've done with our partner at the NFL, we've done everything from, you do holograms if you're at the Super Bowl and you get to experience them and all of that. But one of the things where we kind of recently laid out with them was our Play AR application, which takes real-time data as it's happening in the game and places it in AR in your living room, basically, so you can see a play, and so you're getting the value of oh wow, there's a cool play happening in my space, but I'm actually added context of, oh, look how the the trajectory of the ball, and I open up, so you're getting all of the, for your fantasy folks and things like that, having an Irish guy trying to explain NFL, it won't be the best use of this time, but that combination, and we saw huge engagement. I mean, like more than the game itself on that are being watched through the app, you know. And so it's like that level of value is and ways to, you know, nuggets and how you scratch that and find that, I think are really compelling. And then that automated process too, right? You don't like, I can't be hiring a whole bunch of artists to be rendering each scene and computing each, you know, you start to build out an automated process for this content too, where, you know, or you see a piece of furniture and a car in your living room, it's served slightly, you know, in a much more acceptable environment for you up in the Bay as it is to, you know, maybe in, you know, in LA, you know, scorched earth sun for me or something like that. So, you know, all of that kind of automated processes too, just, you know, feed into that and make it feel more personal. So I think it's exciting.
So Nigel, yeah, and let's put a pin in that just for a second, because I'm going to spend probably our last 10 minutes on some how actionable, some of the stuff Silke touched on from the strategy side, production side that you're talking about, and for everyone. So that's great though. I want to go back one little step because Leslie was starting to tease this out. And I want to note that we're all here together building this future, and like we're in the middle of this crazy science fiction stuff, and we're, you know, we're trying to educate, you know, collect this all up and turn this into an actionable thing for people on panels like this. And while we're doing all this and we think we're so freaking smart and fancy, Leslie in our pregame a while back was talking about what's going on in Japan. They're already doing it. Like they're like,
yeah,
typical,
exactly.
I guess. So can you spend a minute just kind of articulating that Shibuya use case, what that means, and how that might be in a North Star for some other digital physical convergence, and where we could take this stuff a few more years down the line, and then we'll bring it back down to earth to kind of wind up. But people need to hear about this because it kind of blew all our minds when you were telling us about it the other day.
Yeah, so KDDI in Japan, they're one of the carriers, and so they have 5G'd up the Shibuya ward of Tokyo. It's kind of their demo area. Now, unfortunately, this went live, you know, like 5 minutes before Japan shut down back last March, but it's you know, it's there, and so they've been working with Nreal glasses, and so Nreal glasses to a wire to a 5G phone that you have in your pocket, and you can go into Shibuya and you put on the glasses, and the first thing you see is virtual advertisement in front of the buildings that are around where you see, and they actually did deals with the building owners for that. I don't think that's going to last, but they didn't want to put any feet wrong at the very beginning of this, and so fair enough. And they said it was really difficult to explain to the building owners what they were even talking about, but you know. So you see this advertising, and then you've got options to do things like you can play a game based on the Ghost in the Shell property, where it basically repaints the way the whole city looks around you. So it looks like the whole city is glitching, and then characters come up to you, virtual characters go, it's like, oh, the city's being hacked, only you can save us. And so then you interact with the imaginary characters and save Tokyo, yay. They also have a storefront, a literal physical storefront in Shibuya you can walk into, and there's nothing there. There's no salespeople, there's nothing on the shelves, but you put on the Nreal glasses and you see products and you see a salesperson, and all of it is virtual. And I believe that infinite inventory, exactly. And I believe they cooperated with Facebook actually on the store, and so they had virtual Halloween. They had to really pivot, so they ended up creating the whole. They took what they had built and then they were able to port it quickly to VR so that people could experience the same thing even if they couldn't physically go to Shibuya because of the pandemic. But because they had a firm, you know, the underpinnings were there, porting it to VR, they were able to do it in a week. And they had 400,000 people go and attend their Halloween in Shibuya this year. So everybody could costume up with their avatars and go and do Halloween-y things in VR in Shibuya through KDDI. So, you know, really, the pandemic actually really pushed us forward in many ways. They wouldn't have thought of doing that otherwise. And now my fervent hope is that with the pandemic lifting, we've learned so many new cool things that we can do. By God, they're going to stay.
Wow. So the magic of tech is it's helping us transcend time, space, distance, all these things we've touched on with these different use cases. That is mind-blowing.
Can I also add one more thing though, because you know, we always talk about ways of experiences virtual worlds with some form within some form of a virtual platform of some kind. But as we all know, because we work in it, but it's important to remind it that these ways of producing content virtually are actually coming into a standard way of creating traditional content. So if you're looking at the regular TV ads or movies, but let's even just take regular TV ads, more and more they're being produced by creating a lot of, if not the majority or possibly even the entire ad virtually with the same tools that we use to create an AR experience or a VR experience. So sometimes an end user might not notice that we're still talking about the same virtual production that we always talk about, but it's inside a more familiar asset, so to speak, or a more familiar way of looking at something. And that is becoming the norm. And by the way, that allows us to produce content that otherwise would be really difficult to produce.
If I may add to that, Rafaela, that is very true. For example, and Tony, do you mind if I bring up a use case with some numbers just to illustrate?
No, please.
Real quick. So we have our tools now are designed to do what I'm going to tell you about. Like we could do it right now if we wanted to. So the folks at HitPoint and Ariel Lurer partner with Ellen DeGeneres for the Game of Games. And they did a sample AR experiment to incorporate the audience into the experience. Very simple, an image appeared, you point with your phone, you did a little graphical couple of things that you select, boom, submit, you're in. The results were amazing. So just to not take too much time, AR activity, 1,171,992. That's recognitions served successfully. From that, the call to action completed 198,154. That's 16.9%. For all of you who work on conversions, you know that that is really hard.
Basically. Right.
Increase brand awareness, engage the TV audience, and allow them to participate in the simplest way, to really participate from their living room. And that is the first successful attempt at a second screen experience in 20 years. And it's very significant because what they did by hand, we can now do automated without writing a single line of code today. Sorry.
Wow. So that, I mean, go ahead, Silke.
Yeah, I think really just to put a finishing touch on what both Rafaela and Billy, you were sharing, the idea that augmented reality has to be part of the standard planning process for a marketer. It has to be part of the content creation agenda. It has to be part of the strategic planning. That's our job as well, right? Because we each look at individual items, but as there is the need and the consumption behavior of consumers, and again, customers and employees that expects augmented and virtual reality, I noticed a lot of marketing colleagues are not quite there yet. They are just about to scratch the surface. And what we can do also is help educate. I've heard so many good data points across all of the panelists here on what it does, how much engagement it drives, conversion rates. As we're able to articulate that and make it part of the marketing thinking, it was mobile first, that for several years ago started to become a thing. Maybe before that, even digital, mobile, and now it's about have augmented reality as part of your standard planning processes, part of your portfolio, not just as a nice experiment. Because I think the idea is there is no going back. We're moving forward with that, and it's much more ubiquitous and fun than ever before.
Well, that's the thing.
You have the assets. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Nigel. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying, like, what's great is you have the assets and you can use them however way you want. Like, and that's, a lot of the brands that are engaging in this space are already just leveraging, whether it's their CAD files for creating vehicles or, their entire portfolio of products they have in store. And now you can just, it's the same thing they use for their commercial. They can use an AR and, and that transition has been going on for the last few years, but it's still nascent for a lot of companies, a lot of brands to really make that commitment. And you're, again, same highlighting on the entertainment side. Like when I was at DreamWorks, we would create Shrek for the film, but then when we'd make a sequel, we'd have to build them all from scratch again. And then we'd do the Shrek commercial for McDonald's. They would have to build a new one, and they'd have to, and use like it's like just dollars upon dollars and no reuse, recycle, reduce, reuse type of energy, which really allows in the CG process today. And, again, whether it's volumetrically capturing it, and, I even think now that's the value that you see in some of these digital agencies that are like representing digital humans, like they're maintaining the upkeep, right? It's like keeping them healthy so that they can show up and appear at all of these platforms. You want our digital performer to show up at Roblox or at Fortnite or at whatever, you insert where, we'll have a version that's ready for you there. And I think, if brands aren't thinking about that and their assets and their ownership that way, they really, like, they're behind in a lot of ways. And, hopefully you can start to embrace that.
So team, check it out. Sorry, Leslie. We have about 4 minutes left. I can't believe it. We have a tiger by the tail on this panel because we've touched on so much: the trends, the infrastructure, the production realities, where Silke's coming from on how this is actionable for clients, strategy, technology capabilities that Bill's been talking about, Leslie's been talking about. I mean, it's just, we can't even, right? So let's try to bottom line it. We got 3 or 4 minutes left here. Science fiction future from here to now. Everyone gets 30 seconds. Paint me a picture. What should we focus on to get from here to there in the next 3 or 4 years?
It's okay. I come from Nokia. We lost our handset business because we missed a moment of inflection. AR, everything Silke was just saying, this is a moment of inflection. When something new comes in and older companies can't keep up, older companies will lose it and be gone. So, warning out there, if your business is not already looking at AR as an integral part of your marketing strategy, do it now or it's going to be too late. The person
Mic
from Nokia
drop,
said
Leslie.
so.
Awesome. Bill.
I totally agree, and the tools are there for you. If your business is web-based, you have web AR. If your business is mobile application-based, you have Android and iOS solutions, various. And if your business is with devices, HMDs or anything else, you have the ability to leverage ARKit, ARCore, Wikitude, Vuforia, etc. So the moment is now. I agree with you. If you do not act now, it will impact your bottom line.
And great point. We didn't even touch on this. It's not that hard. It's not that expensive. Yeah, you can do this today. Silke.
I would say embrace the edge. And by that, that's the edge of leading these pioneering use cases. And it's the edge that Leslie is talking about, the 5G and the edge of the network. I think there's a nice play on words. I would say leaning in has so much more in terms of benefits and opportunities than being reserved or conservative. So embrace the edge.
Nigel.
Capturing all that, it is super easy to do it. So just do it, figure it out, and figure out why it doesn't or does work for you, and iterate on that. I think the iteration process, the one and try, you won't get anywhere. There'll be different versions of NFTs by the time probably this video finishes. There'll be different versions of all of these platforms, but you have to keep up with it, stay on that edge. I love that. But keep iterating and trying, and you'll do.
Embrace the edge. Definitely the pull quote, Silke. Rafaela, last word goes to you.
I would say omni-channel is completely different. It's a completely different definition. Shopping and marketing and advertising is now everywhere, and it's experiential. So you need to make sure that it's emotional and it's you reach a level of empathy, create virtually, and create with an idea in mind of connecting with the consumer as if they were right in front of you and they can perform any action at any time, anywhere.
That's awesome. All right, it's time. I want to thank all of my wonderful friends and fellow panelists today. Billy, Leslie, Nigel, Rafaela, and Silke. It's been an extreme pleasure. We will see you all at the next Digital Hollywood. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Tony. Thank you, everybody.
Appreciate it. Bye, everyone.
Bye.